Drive over, live, override. You're not the one who let me down, but thanks for offering. It's not a voice and I'm not around. Thanks for picking it up on the radio. Sample Joe Rush from a faucet I know. I got a magnet in my head, a magnet in my head. Extra thick, extra long, the wait was wasted. And there's a chance that things will get weird. Yeah, that's a possibility. Although I didn't do anything. No, I didn't do anything. All I ever wanted.
Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%. We should take a single book, break it down section by section, bit by bit, talk about it, analyze it, have fun. Season 20, Mulligan Stew by Gilbert Sorrentino. We are done. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm glad to be done.
Glad to be done?
Excited to hear what you're going to say for our next book. But yeah.
I don't know what we should do. Honestly, I have no real clear pathway. So if people have suggestions, send them. I have a couple of suggestions, but I don't really know what would make sense. And I can send them to you, but one, I'll even say them out loud. One idea would be to do Ed Park's book, Same Bed, Different Dreams, which I really like, which is coming out now or just came out maybe. But it would be a new book, which we have not done before. And we did with Ducks Newburyport, to be fair. So that wouldn't be too much of a pivot. Really interesting, but gets all its postmodern comparisons, but it is really quite good. I read it after Winter Institute. And the other is I Hotel by oh my God, I'm blanking out on her name. Karen T. Yamashita, which I think we talked about on here during 2666 as an example of a book that's like unique and weird and trying to do something very different. It's like 10, 15 years old now, set in the Bay Area, also deals with like Black Panthers, Asian American issues. So those two would be great. And they're both fairly long, but if anyone has any good suggestions for what we should do, I'm happy to hear and happy to discuss with anyone possibilities.
Yeah, I see like for the timeliness of it, Ed Park could be interesting.
I mean, it really would. He's going to be here in Rochester on the 4th of December. So we could even tape something with him then. And
great idea.
And have it in the back. This is, by the way, this is how the sausage gets made, everyone that is listening live or listening to the audio. But seriously, like, yeah, we have a lot. I mean, there's a lot of books we could do, but they fall in a lot of things that we've suggested fall in the same category of giant white male books.
Sure. Another thing
David, right. Miss Macintosh, My Darling is a hard pass just because it would take like, well, I don't know. It's up to you, Brian, but it's like 1,500 pages and would take us probably like 6 months. I want to do something. The person who's listening made the comment. I do want to do something that would be like a sort of like a read along or guide. But it would be, if it ever gets printed. I don't know that we could do it on here without it like basically breaking the whole system.
Oh, things are meant to be broken. I was thinking, I don't know if it'd be too much to do together, but it might be interesting. I haven't read I Hotel, but from what you've said about it, it might be interesting to compare and contrast that with something like, I didn't read it, but Tommy Orange's There, which is also Bay Area, except from the American Native perspective of it. That could be kind of cool to do if I Hotel is Bay Area and like counterculture, to do that with There as well. That could be kind of be a neat way of, and it's a slightly more modern book. Was it like 5-6 years ago that one came out or something?
Oh yeah, I guess it is.
It's older than I thought, but I don't know. I know it got all this buzz and stuff when that one came out, but those two together could be kind of cool. But I think for the, I don't know, I would shortlist the Ed Park if he's going to be in town to do something that's just now coming out, has some buzz and some push behind it, and see what it's all about. The cover looks cool.
The cover looks great, and the cover is great. I don't have a finished copy, and my galley is gone, but it's really something. Involves Buffalo.
Oh,
assassination attempts, the Sabres, a secret organization trying to like establish, reestablish, continue establishing Korea. Like it's it's kind of fun. It's very fun.
Speaking of like Buffalo and Rochester and garbage plates and things that are garbage, I can share with you. I typed in, I was playing around with AI, trying to play, ask them to give me some feedback and back cover copy for Mulligan Stew.
I couldn't get it to work.
So I got it to work. Let me share, if you don't mind, just real quick. The first thing I wrote on it is I asked it to write the back cover copy for the novel Mulligan Stew that made me want to buy the book. So here's what it spit out. Step into a world where culinary passion meets the thrill of a lifetime in Mulligan Stew, a gripping novel that will leave your heart and taste buds racing. Meet Samantha Turner, a talented but struggling chef who's just one bad review away from losing her dream restaurant. Desperate to save her career and reputation, she stumbles upon a mysterious cookbook with a simple recipe known as Mulligan Stew. The legend goes that whoever can perfect this dish will find success beyond their wildest dreams. As Samantha delves into the enigmatic world of Mulligan Stew, she embarks on a culinary adventure like no other. With each attempt to create the elusive recipe, she unravels tantalizing clues and uncovers a network of passionate food lovers who will stop at nothing to protect the secret. What is this, like Dan Brown writes?
We talk a lot.
From bustling food markets in
Paris, from water like chocolate. That's what I mean.
to hidden bistros in New Orleans, Mulligan Stew takes you on a globe-trotting journey filled with savory aromas, complex flavors, and unexpected alliances. Samantha must confront her own insecurities, face fierce competition, and make heart-wrenching choices, all while racing against the clock to master the ultimate dish, blah, 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 blah. So I said, how about write the back cover copy for Gilbert Sorrentino's book, Mulligan Stew? And it says, I apologize, I can't provide verbatim copyright text, blah, blah, blah. So I said, create a new version for modern readers. I said, create it. So here's the actual created. This is for modern readers. I don't know what a modern reader is, but embark on a literary journey like no other. Apparently that's the only way you can start these things. Embark on a literary journey like no other with Gilbert Sorrentino's Mulligan Stew. In this modern classic, Sorrentino serves up a rich and complex narrative that's as enticing as a gourmet feast. Fuck you. Okay. Meet Anthony Lamont, a struggling writer grappling with the chaos of his own imagination. Desperate to craft his magnum opus, he plunges headfirst into a world where the lines between fiction and reality blur, and the rules of storytelling are thrown out the window. As he navigates the quirky and unpredictable characters of his own creation, Anthony begins to question the very existence of literature and art. Mulligan Stew is an inventive and daring exploration of the writing process, inviting readers to witness the raw, unfiltered creative struggle of an author pushing the boundaries of storytelling. Sorrentino's prose is a masterclass in literary innovation, taking you on a roller coaster ride through the mind of a writer in the throes of literary chaos. With its metafictional twists and playful postmodern approach into narrative, Mulligan Stew is a must-read for those who crave a literary experience that defies conventions. This novel challenges the very definition of what a story can be, and in doing so, it presents a fresh and exhilarating perspective on the art of writing. If you're ready to immerse yourself in a world where imagination reigns supreme, where the absurd meets the profound, and where the boundaries of storytelling are pushed to their limits, then Mulligan Stew is the book you've been waiting for. Prepare to be captivated, challenged, and thoroughly entertained by this extraordinary literary adventure. Gilbert Sorrentino's Mulligan Stew is a mind-bending literary tour de force for the modern reader.
Okay. So comment on that. Like, that's not bad.
There is some stuff you can work with in there. I think it kind of got close to it towards the end.
So I fucked up when I was doing this. First, I did upload into Chat PDF the whole PDF of the book and asked it to summarize that, and it wouldn't do it. Like it was like, I don't know why.
Copyright or
no, it was just like it was spitting out like nonsense. And it was like it didn't. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. And I gave up pretty quickly, to be honest. But then, and maybe I'm wrong, because the one that it creates for ChatGPT, I looked at and I was like, well, this is just the back of our book. It's just Googling and pulling the jacket copy from the back of the book. But how does your jacket copy begin?
Mine says widely regarded.
Okay, so yours is the same as mine. This is not the jacket copy. I was wrong. This is actually like a totally different thing. And it's similar, close to what you had, but a little different. It's really long, but I'll skip through. So like Mulligan Stew is a literary masterpiece that defies convention and invites readers on an exhilarating journey into the labyrinth of words and ideas. Gilbert Sorrentino's magnum opus is a dazzling display of narrative innovation and creative genius. Meet Anthony Lamott. This is the first time we've ever gotten the right characters out of these. A struggling writer grappling with the elusive concept of the great American novel. But the story doesn't end there. Inside Lamott's chaotic world lies a bewildering novel within a novel, a literary kaleidoscope that weaves together disparate characters, scenes, and genres. In this literary collage, detective fiction intertwines with erotica, and absurd humor dances with surrealism. Sorrentino's prose is a symphony of words, an experiment in storytelling that challenges conventional boundaries. The line between fiction and reality blurs, and readers are compelled to navigate the intricate layers of narrative. Mulligan Stew is a postmodern masterpiece that dissects the act of storytelling and the creative process itself. It's a thought-provoking exploration of the writer's mind, a playful and profound meditation on the power of language. Prepare to be dazzled by wordplay, captivated by inventiveness, and challenged by the boundaries of traditional narrative. Mulligan Stew is a literary stew like no other, simmering with intellectual vigor and artistic audacity, leaving readers craving for more. But fuck that last line.
I hate you. I hate you. That's
fuck
terrible.
Everything up until then, I was like, I thought we wrote this. And then that last line, I was like, never in a million years.
It's kind of like the same thing with like movie reviews. Like there's always these like stupid puns in every movie review that like you just can't help yourself. It's like the same thing. Yeah. What like there's certain things that I find like magnum opus, like what, like most important work? Is that kind of?
I mean, I think, to be honest, I think magnum opus is code word for longest.
Okay. And then masterpiece. How do we?
Every book is a masterpiece.
Exactly. Like, and so there's like, words mean things, I hope.
Not according to LeBron James.
Yeah. I hope words still mean things, but I don't know. There's just like stuff that just, I know it's like, it doesn't matter. It's drivel. It's like a blurb, right? Who cares? That's a great book. Like every blurb ever, an author to look out for. Okay. Nobody really cares. They just shake the stuff out. Do they really care? Do they not? I don't know. And with the back, like, does it have to be so long?
This is much shorter. What we have is much shorter.
Yeah, I know. Like, but like, can't it? I don't know. Can't it be just like 50 words or something? Just because, like, what are like if you're making like the PowerPoint presentation of this book? What are like the 3 to 5 things that really make this you want to read this book?
Yeah.
What would you want to put on that? Genre blending?
Yeah. Erotica. I want erotica on there.
Because I started to lean in a little bit when I was talking about detective fiction, erotica. Like it takes these lowbrow tropes and it's raising them to something more interesting and intellectual. So like that's cool. I like that. So there's the genre blending. I think would be great. You kind of have to throw it into the, in the Venn diagram of it, you have to kind of throw it into postmodernism, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something that could maybe grab people.
Maybe, although I think there was a time where I used postmodernism during a sales conference with Borders, and John was like, "Don't ever do that again." Like, there's nothing that's more of a kiss of death than saying postmodern.
Yeah. So
maybe not.
Call it chaotic, frenetic.
The one that I had chaotic in there, right? It had
I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many words. Yeah, Lamont's chaotic world is a bewildering novel within a novel and literary kaleidoscope that weaves together. I like literary kaleidoscope as a description for this book.
Okay. I
mean, it doesn't really mean necessarily anything, but I like it. Like, it sounds cool.
Yeah. I like where I don't know exactly if I like these words, but absurd meets the profound.
I have absurd humor dances with surrealism.
Yeah, and boundaries of storytelling are pushed to their limits. I don't know about being pushed to their limits, but pushing the boundaries of storytelling makes sense.
I have the same thing, challenged by the boundaries of traditional narrative.
Yeah.
The readers will be challenged by the boundaries of traditional. it's interesting that they're so similar. Like they must be pulling. So they're pulling the AIs are pulling from our copy and what must exist online about it to some degree. But like, I want to feed. This goes back to a conversation a few weeks ago where people are complaining that like AIs are being trained on their books and that's somehow bad. Rather than questioning the very existence of AI, like the fact that they're reading their books is bad. And I really want to feed it these things because this at least I can work with. Like there's so many books that like could you imagine if this book was brand new and nobody had written about it, you were the first person publishing it ever, and you have to write a description of it? It's fucking torture. Like, because I don't know, like I have to do this on Monday with my class as part of our behavioral economics and / marketing lecture, but is like, what attributes actually trigger a purchase or a sale, and how much does jacket copy actually matter for like whether or not you're going to purchase a book, much less read it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't read a lot of jacket copy, and I also tend to read books based on like hunches and make decisions based on hunches rather than like any sort of foresight. Sometimes it's like, oh, I like this author, but even that, like I have all these Crash and Horkai books I haven't read. I like him just fine. All these Kano books that I read, I love Kano, but like even that's like, oh, I could read that, and I'm like, no, this like Ali Smith Seasons Quartet seems to be the thing I want to read right now because it just feels right. Like that idea of like what feels right is inescapable, I think, and also like impossible to market to. So does jacket copy matter? Do covers matter? Do reviews matter?
Covers as well. I remember I had one author friend complaining that they put a dog on the cover of his book, and he's like, I don't have any dogs in my book. And like the publisher was saying, yeah, but like dogs are trending really well right now, so we want to have a dog on the cover. Yeah,
it's like the old like don't put a woman's body parts on the cover, but never the head, never the full body. Legs, lots of legs.
Green covers don't set like does any of that really matter? I don't think it does, but
I'm looking. I only have like one green book on my shelves that has like a green front. Oh no, 1, 2, 3 that are from New York Review Books, which they have just primary, just a color. So that's a little bit less not notable. And then the Alvaro Enrique book is bright ass green.
Yeah, sudden death.
Yeah, which is good. Which Riverdale blocked us. Riverhead blocked us from doing one of his old books because they have new books of his, and they're like it would cloud the market. So there's like books of his in the past that have been translated that are sitting there waiting to find their English readers, but are being prevented by a corporate publisher from doing so. Which I just want to throw that out there as the only anti-corporate book podcast out there. I would like to reiterate that Penguin Random House can fuck itself.
So obviously Dalkey has a house style for the books they put out and for the reader series. If you didn't have to have the house style, what do you think would be like cover-wise an interesting way to try to market this book?
You mean for the because of the Essentials version, this version?
Yeah, the Essentials version.
Yeah, outside of the Essentials ones, I mean, I don't dislike that old one, and simply because it is so dated and weird, but it fits within the time that it was coming out. Outside of that, I'm really bad at cover design stuff. Like I really just, if I see something, I'll be like, oh, I like that, but I never make a decision if at all possible because I don't know that I have any. If it were music, I can help with music. I've got a good ear for weird shit and listen to a lot of music, but like visual things, I don't really know. And with music too, like I like things that I know people don't like. Like I don't like most things that people really love. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah, it's probably like some bad derivative. I'm just like thinking out loud right now. I could see like a way that kind of encapsulates what's happening here is I'd want to go back to those like those bad pornographic like erotica advertisements,
like the pulpy.
Yeah, and make it look like a pulpy advertisement type thing that has all the like little erotica things in it that are funny. And then like if you would cut out pieces of it and you could spell out Mulligan Stew with this like weird, like almost like you're being held hostage, like a hostage note type of thing.
Right.
To show of like cutting things out, things from different parts. Somebody's clearly losing their mind. There's the erotic part of it as well. You could have that all in there. That could be like one way of doing it, I guess.
One that's like not it doesn't quite fit because of like the particular element to it, but that comes to mind and that ties into that is Flannel Brian's, an older version of Flannel Brian's at Swim Two Birds, in which there's like a bowler hat and then text in the background. I put it in the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat, to be honest. I don't really know how the chat works, but it's got writing in the background, and then there are like 3 characters that are like paper dolls coming out of the text with like shadows behind them, and like that idea of like those things taking over or escaping or being imprisoned is sort of like interesting. But you could also have Anthony Lamott like looking crazy standing over a big pot stewing it together and just sell it as a cookbook like your jacket copy. Just put that check. What would happen if we took like a pot of stew, like the most generic ass looking pot of stew, put the title on there, put your jacket copy, the Jessica Chastain one or whatever the fuck it was, whatever their name. It
is the greatest. I love Samantha Turner. It's like such a romantic. It's like the perfect romantic comedy. Samantha Turner.
Let's put that on the back. Put this cover on the front. Make it for sale as like a EPUB or like a Kindle version and print on demand. And I wonder what the sales would be. I wonder how long it would take before someone complained. Like they'd be like, "Where's the recipe?
How are you going to find it?" Well, no, but just like this front copy, this back copy. Obviously, we're talking about how would you sell this book. What about this idea here on page 403 of the old version? But if you can raise, say, $3,000, I can then have some flyers printed up and mailed to select people. Leave the list to me all over the country, announcing my new book and asking for subscriptions. I can also include the information that, quote, limited supplies of my earlier novels are still available. I have many cartons of them here in my apartment and at the original list price.
And I like how he keeps saying, like, and you can buy more at the original list price. At the original list price. Here's a free one, but here are more. Oh, and I just put insane in big black quotes next to the one idea. It just is like, well, you know, I beg you to work up like a thing, send it to your every friend, relative, and acquaintance that you can think of and remember, asking them in turn to send it on within 5 days, or they will have bad luck. The comments to all their friends, relatives, and acquaintances, and so on and so forth. In this way, a chain letter can be started, and in a month or two, literally hundreds of thousands of people will have read the comments and will come to know of my books. The address and a price list will be included.
If you send this letter to 10 friends, you'll have good luck. Like, oh my God.
It's amazing. So
if he could have written this today, Anthony Lamott would have like a YouTube channel with subscribers, and he'd talk about, why aren't you publishing my book? I have 1,300 followers. Can't you see the importance of my social media presence and how it's going to lead to book sales? And oh my God.
Yep.
It's so good.
Yep, he would definitely be like the weirdest TikToker there is, and that would be amazing. I wonder if you could replicate, like, pretend to be Anthony Lamott and just like do weird TikToks in which he's just slowly breaking down. I wonder if that would be popular. I have no idea what's popular on TikTok except for like people moving like robot things all the time and like coming at the screen, coming at the camera. No fucking know. Okay, so in terms of this section, we have a few chapters of his book which concludes. There is an ending which we could talk about, like compared to other endings, as to whether or not it like succeeds, if it's earned, so on and so forth. There's also a section of, I forget where we started here, but we started with the chapter, right? Like blowing flowers stilled.
Yeah, that's
Finnegan's
Wake.
Dog, do not write like this.
It's a Finnegan's Wake reference, and it's absolutely unreadable.
It's absolutely unreadable, and it's in a sort of, I feel like, the master narrative sort of like bad African-American voice. Or like that at points seems to be what it's going for in terms of the weird accented parts. Like he's always like fucked up with his how people talk, but this one's really gross. And yeah, and I found that part totally unreadable too. Like I skimmed through it, and I know that it is supposed to be Ned Beaumont's ghost essentially declaring things to Lamont, such as, "I was sweet content to spend my manly days as a publisher of books, a helpful midwife pleased to be ancillary to the birth of fine raw artifacts crafted by your tribe of inky laborers." Like it's really hokey and shitty, like straight shitty.
But then he follows it up with, "I did not write," Lamont in his notebook says, "against my well-being, even my sanity," later on, "I did not write this chapter. They, of course, have done it."
So and that's part of like at Some Two Birds, that happens at Some Two Birds, where Trollis loses control and the characters while he sleeps, write things around him and essentially torture him, a la like Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote, like falling out of buildings and being run over and smashed. That's where like the other day I'm still finishing up Doom Patrol season 4, which highly recommend Doom Patrol. Like that is the best of these sort of like superhero adjacent shows. It's filled with cursing. It's like really about like mental health problems and like the inability to like recognize your own like fuck upness. But it's also incredibly funny, incredibly fun and weird. And there's a point where they're stuck in a world where if you write things or draw things, those things happen. And so they start taking over like the bad guys by like having shit drop on them. And it's like, this is at Some Two Birds. This is Mulligan Stew. This is what's happening. The characters are taking over. They're winning the landscape. But yeah, that section is tough. And one other part that's underlined, I don't even know why, but it's in that same weird dialect. "Spoons, Martin, I swear to thee, they gave not but to take, and amused themselves with me as a brat, doth sport the hours in tormenting kittens. Had I a raging powerful piece of male equipage that fair threatened to burst my breeches, why, 'twas none of mine, but a charm those two would put on me for sure in their own carnalities." Where it's talking about his like being seduced by the two women. But that part, that was tough. And like, then for him to be like, "I didn't write it, this is insane. I don't know what happened." Like that, of course, that's kind of fun.
What I'd really like to get to though with this last part, with what you said just then, he's losing control of his own writing. He's losing control of his sanity. In Halpern's journal, right after that, he talks about, "My bag is packed, but where will I go if I don't know where to look?" Right?
Yep.
And there's this idea of like, there is no phone. The police are never coming. Where are the landscapes? Yep. But this last, at the very, very, very end, this quote by Emile Fillon, 1907, when talking about Paul Cézanne's work, that he attempted to go beyond the sublime balances of nature, not content with the analytical methods that the great artists of the past had considered sufficient to her revelation and interpretation, but desired a synthesis that would allow him to decorate nature with the forms and colors that existed nowhere except in his own secret thought. Thus his late painting nowhere shows forth nature's splendors, but instead is a failure precipitated by his surrender to the pleasures of the imagination.
Yeah.
That it's a very obviously well-written, super smart critique of art, but thinking of it in context of what the actual artist, Gilbert Sorrentino, is doing, and then what the artist within the work, Lamont, is doing, and what the artist within the artist within the artist is doing. Absolutely incredible to think about this idea of all of the, the sublime, that realism with its infatuation with God and the sublime. Like God put it there. It's what I need to do is just represent it to you as best I can so that you can feel this grandeur and this splendor. Nowhere shows forth nature's splendor, but instead its failure because of the pleasures of the if you surrender completely to the pleasures of the imagination. So really, I don't know, it's just been a really interesting thought I've been pondering over since I've read this quote and trying to figure out what is the point of this book? what is he at play with? And yeah, I feel like this is like a key to it.
Yeah, I do too. Like there's like the idea like that this book is like, what is the point? I'm like, if you went back to like the whatever, the new modernists or the, what are they called? The new critics, and like the kind of like structure and purpose of the book, like this book purpose is just to like wallow in its self glorified fun in some ways. Like it is, even in its mocking of all these different writing styles and authors and treatments through the media and whatnot, there's not really a moral lesson or even like any sort of lesson coming out of that, aside from like mocking fun and of like true like explosion of the imagination. And that's,
yeah. And I find too, like we can track, in some ways you can kind of like track Lamont losing grip on reality by trying to be things to other people.
Yeah.
Like concerned with what are they going to think of this? Oh, I need to have, like, other work has done this. I'm doing a version of this. Even to the point where he's borrowing characters that belong to other books, not even his own work. Like where is the actual imagination? Where is the pleasure of the imagination there?
That came up to me and it isn't like, yeah, and I think it's like that you can't, well, I mean, one of the things is you can't create things out of whole cloth, which is like part of the running bit in here where it's like a thing, he gets a letter or a thing, and then he writes it into the book in a different way, or like there's that interplay and all the different sections sort of bounce off one another of like, here's a business thing, here's a this thing, like there's the different modes. The other thing that relates to that is that there's in the section, there's that, I forget what it's called, but the part from Dermot Trellis, like his short story or excerpt from his book or whatever, that is basically the outline of the plot for the book that Lamont's writing, The Crocodiles. It's basically almost a plagiarism of that. But the thing that I was going to ask you is like, I don't even know if I can say this with a straight face or like necessarily mean it, but Lamont's a better writer than Trellis is within the context of this book, which is fucking astounding. And also maybe part of like the point that like Trellis is popular in controlling, supposedly controlling things, and like, you know, the puppet master that's ruining Lamont's life. And like Lamont's technically better in a lot of ways than Trellis's nonsense that's in this book. Like I had a bunch of them marked, but he's like even worse with like the metaphors and similes, and like it's just like awful. And there's halfway through I was like, I think that I prefer the other. Like this, yet the dead man's face seems almost to be my own. Whereas like the sails of regatta seconds before the starter's flag, eyes pop like big league fastballs, white as moonlight in Vermont. Like it's terrible. Like it's terrible.
Yeah, I just taught a chapter out of John Gardner's book, The Art of Fiction, and he has a section called Common Errors, and
dreams.
Yeah, it's all, everything that you can do that's a common error is done beautifully in this book.
Yeah.
Every single one. In some ways, it reminds me of Kurt Vonnegut's writing advice, where he says, like, write to please just one person. I think it's, the quote is like, I'll misquote it a little bit, but like, if you open up a window and try to make love to the world, you'll catch pneumonia, is basically what he's getting at. And like, I feel like you're seeing this with Lamont, where he's like, he wants to please so many people, and he wants to, you know, be inspired, but really just aping other things that, like, yeah, like the manuscript is sick, he's sick, and it all comes out terrible. Yeah, very much. While claiming that he wants authenticity and truth, and all he's doing is just echoing lies.
Does he really just want fame and attention?
He wants to get laid and have some money and be a writer he wants to be a respected writer of authentic fiction that, you know.
This is like every NaNoWriMo person. Yeah, this is like everyone. Like, yeah, I want to get laid and be famous. Like, but like that idea and like of him being absurd is like there's no barrier to that anymore, thanks to like the TikTok and YouTube generation of stuff. Like you can be garbage at art and at creativity, but you want to get laid and be famous. There's a pathway for that. Like that's not hard anymore. I mean, it's still hard, but like it's not like you don't have to waste your time writing a book. It's like some Sam Bankman-Fried moment. Like if you've written a book, you've wasted your time. You could have done that in a paragraph or in a tweet. And Sam Bankman-Fried obviously is the oracle of all wisdom for a living. And so the other thing that, there's the last chapter of the book, which is the dialogue between Ned and Halpin. That's like just totally crazy. Like this is like truly insane. And making it up as we goes along is like ridiculous on like a Beckett absurd level in some ways, but also just like, again, like it's not that it's hard to read. It's just like, oh my God, like over and over again, like these weird non sequiturs. There's no resolution. There's no thing to his novel. There's no ending to it within the novel itself. And it still like ends up being like, did he kill him or not? Like it's all supposed to be held in like in that middle ground, very Pinch and Crying Lot 49-esque, where like there's no real answer to that. But like along the way in this chapter, it's just complete gibberish.
What's more gibberish, that or like the dedication page?
So I think the dedication page is his last will and testament.
Ah.
And that this is the end of Lamont. This is the end of the book because this is the end of his life. I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking at a lot of these people are like, they're either fake characters or possible characters or like combination of characters or whatever. But this is his, like what he's giving away as he's out. He's done. He's gone. It's over. That's my read on it. I don't know that that's true, but and then there are some of them. I skimmed through them this time because I did read them one by one when I was proofing the book. So this time I sort of skimmed it, but found a few fun ones like to Father Graham, 0 for 5 and an error. Solid. And then there's one more that I underlined that was pretty fun. Oh yeah, to the cross-eyed kid, a plump pussy. That's one. And to a Fisa pup, Irish confetti. Like there's just like they're random, like not gifts and like not inheritances, but treated that way. To this person, I leave blank. To this person, I give blank. This person gets blank. And that's why I was reading it as like he finished his book. He's lost his mind entirely. He's over.
And yeah, just like the wordplay. Obviously like up and part of it says like Aram the Bard. And then just below that it says the Jew of Malted instead of the Jew of Malta.
Right.
And then just a little bit below that, Leaves of Grass to Textile Bankers. So it's like kind of like playing with literary, like obviously Lamont has showed himself to be, well-read and erudite, but he's just like an idiot that can't get out of his own way. And like, here it is where like, it's all garbled and mixed up. Are you trying to be funny? Or are you just being confused at this point? Hard to know, but it's like everything that is in his brain is like haywire, short circuiting and not quite working right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gone off the rails entirely. Yep. I do think it's funny. I was going to use it as a line for the week, but I do think it's funny that our Latvian stuff comes back in here.
Your Latvian accent or whatever. Yeah.
Your awful Latvian accent. That's very
I think you probably are right though about this being like his final letter of life. Because if we go to the page that's right before where chapter 12, like blowing flowers stilled.
Yeah.
When he's giving us the rundown of the book, Blue Ruin, and then final 3 chapters as above, and finished. All my pain will be eased if only I can write fini.
Which he doesn't write. That doesn't appear in here.
But he does give us a French artist with a French art critique at the end as well, though.
The very end of this is interesting too. There's like the normal 2 Flynn, the Drunken Lion, a magnificent music machine, girls, and more girls to Giuseppe Lawson, the time server, to KK Bias, tunes that are gone with the wind, and to all you other cats and chicks out there, sweet or otherwise, very deep and wordy tunes, who never yet have walked from off the page, a shake and a hug and a kiss and a drink. Cheers.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of that one.
I just noticed this one. For Peter and Prudence prom of the Dewey Gardenia, old-fashioned garbage. The Wang Wang Blues to Terry Drummerbook. Just totally. Mae West with the well, that's given. It's not the person. Yeah, it's interesting. It's in the terms of the endings of the books that we've had, along with the what was it? The Pukler. Is it not Franz Pukler? What was the ice cream from 2666?
I was thinking of that. Yeah.
That's the only other ending that really works because it's not an attempt to end anything. Like,
yeah,
anything. And like the book, like I thought maybe on rereading this reading it for the third time, that like the interior chapters of his Crocodile Tears, Skinny Red would somehow like reach some sort of like logic that works in some way, and that I just hadn't I'd been paying attention to like the jokes and the riffs and the outside of it, and not to like that it actually as a novel functions. But it really doesn't, I don't think. Like I don't think there's anything that like saves it or makes it like, makes sense if you pulled out just those chapters and read just those chapters. It still wouldn't work.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways it's almost, I get the feeling like he wants us to beg for it to end.
Yeah.
With how just unhinged it is in the last 20 pages.
And like, yeah. I mean, it goes so far in terms of like where, like the absurdity and the sort of like almost in parts unreadable nature of it. And there's nothing, I mean, he's mocked and talked about everything.
Yeah, but in a way, like it has to end like that, because the actual work would ring completely false if somehow Lamont pulled something together that gave us any bit of satisfaction.
Yeah.
If anything, we've gotten worse and worse and worse, and it's deteriorated as we've moved towards the finish. So of course it needs to be as worse as it can be at the end.
Yeah, like the part that in Halpin's journal, like when he's like, Lamont could not have written this. And then if he didn't, who did? And if nobody did, what then? Can a writer simply make up characters? And then the real teller part, Lamont will not come through. I see it now. He has collapsed. Even if he didn't do it, he allowed me to be involved in this. This what? Now I want Ned's ladder so badly. It's lonely and eerie here. Is it even what it was possible to deal with Lamont's ineptitude and even his madness, his lunacy? But what am I dealing with now? Like that sort of like true cleavage between Lamont as a crazy writer and Lamont as this new totally broken thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see in some ways there's a satisfaction in that it does stay true to how he's presented Lamont, what's happening to Lamont, and the characters within Lamont's story. Yeah, just absolute garbage and chaos makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I have to say about Gilbert Sorrentino's Mulligan Stew.
I will say
a tour de force magnum opus of masterpiece of work.
There is, for anyone watching this who might have been their first Sorrentino book, I would highly recommend reading The Sky Changes unless you don't want to get divorced. It's a good divorce book. Imaginative Qualities of Actual Things, which is the one that's referenced the most in Mulligan Stew, and is a series of like vignette stories about characters within this, like I think within like Westbeth, essentially like an artist community, each of which is more ridiculous, is also ridiculous, like ridiculous artists. So it fits into this. Aberration of Starlight, which is really moving, and I have not read in a long time, but it's like uses a lot of like repeated like structures. Like it has very specific set of structures that go into each of the 4 parts, and each of those modes is replicated. And it's a I remember about it. I don't have it here, do I? I don't even want to say, but that one I remember being like one of my all-time favorites, and maybe the first one that I read. And then the other ones, like I've read most all of them. I would wait on those unless you really like the very, very like cerebral wordplay, like reference things, because they're less like connected. Steelwork is about one particular neighborhood, and it has vignettes and very short pieces that sort of define that. And Crystal Vision is similar, but uses the tarot as like a sort of guiding principle. But then the trilogy of Odd Number, Rose Theater, and Mysterioso, that's super fun, but that's also like one of the very Beckett cerebral language books versus one of the like more like explosive or plot driven ones that he has. And the last one that I would mention is Gold Fools, which is all questions. It's a Western that is only interrogative. It has no other sentences. And Imaginative Qualities should be in print. I'm pretty sure it's like just that's just available. But if not, I'll double check. But if not, it will be in the not too distant future. But those are the ones that I would recommend as like if you're going on to Sorrentino or going on with him. Those are all quite wonderful. And there is, for anyone who's really interested, I mentioned this before, but is this issue of the Review of Contemporary Fiction that's just on Mulligan Stew. So you could really get into the deep dive on this. That's what I used to explain The Mask back in the Mask episode. Was from there. Otherwise, like, I don't know. I don't pretend to understand anything anymore.
Well, I'm gonna wait with bated breath for what are we? 21, season 21. Ooh, baby.
Yeah. Anyone have any suggestions? Send them along. Miss McIntosh is much appreciated, but I don't. I mean, what I'm thinking of doing with that, honestly, is to
They're trying to hurt us, Chad. Don't let them do it, please.
I know. What I'm thinking of doing with that, honestly, is to take over like a 6-month period, write a weekly sort of thing about it as I read it over 6 months, but write about it. And I don't know that would be any better. Or I could do like a 5-minute summary solo thing. But we're hoping to get like the Center for Fiction to do a book club, but who knows? I don't know. But someone needs to do something for that. But it is so daunting, and it is so long, and it is so complicated in terms of like the sentence structure that I think you would get so lost in the mire of it that it might be a difficult one to like produce in like an even 12 or 16 week period.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any suggestions, send them our way. We'll much appreciate it. Do you have a line of the week from this section?
Oh, golly, I shut my book. Let's see what I find.
I had a couple marked. I'm not the one I want to say though. I don't know that I know how to pronounce all the words, so I'm gonna not do that. I'm already just a total mess. I
like this one here.
I got mine.
I have been working on a new book for about a year now, and have entertained hopes that it would once and for all, I somehow feel that I can speak candidly to you, establish me as an author to be reckoned with.
Mine is there such a thing as syntax? Perfect. So thanks for following along. I guess we're signing off this season. I don't have anything else to add. Watch Doom Patrol. It's really quite good. It'll be gone from Max in like a month, probably forever, because that company is a disaster. Otherwise, we'll come out with an announcement soon on what the next book will be. In the meantime, you can continue buying all open letter books. Please do that. It's our 15-year anniversary. Buy everything. We could use that because we really need to. We're moving offices. I mean, losing our office, and we have to get rid of every book. So buy them so I don't have to ship them anywhere. You have anything you want to add, Brian? Buy Brian's book. Be on the lookout for the next one, which is Untitled.
Yeah, I don't want to be like Lamont and change titles, or whatever. So I'm going to hold off.
Tears.
I'm not sending any chapters to anybody. There's no letters to anybody. I just need to. I guess my last thing I want to say is I'm just really disappointed. There are no recipes in this stupid stew book. So.
We didn't have Blue Ruin, and we didn't have Mulligan Stew. Although when you look up Mulligan Stew, it literally is like whatever you have in your fridge. Like there's no recipe whatsoever. Like stones, that's fine. Turnip, sure. Celery, who cares? Fucking throw it in. Throw everything in, mix it all up, call it good. Such is life, such is baseball.
No, I didn't.